how can we reduce climate change? So a few years ago, I didn't even really believe climate change is a real thing, so I don't blame you guys if you don't believe it at first either. But I remember as a kid I was made sure to recycle, conserve energy, and turn off the lights when I'm not in the room, unplug lamps when they're not being used. We even had an Earth Day at our elementary school for climate change, and we would turn off all technology and all lights off for the day. I don't know if that was just a Canadian thing, but anyways, I didn't know why we would do this. Would this really solve climate change? Well, I was young, foolish, and naive at the time, and I just didn't see the bigger picture on why we needed to constantly recycle and constantly turn off the lights. And to really understand what climate change is, we need to do our research, and I'm sure you guys don't really want to go out of your way and do your research, so that's why I'm here presenting to you guys today. So in my TED Talk, I'll be going through the causes and effects of climate change, how COVID-19 has affected climate change, what climate change experts believe we should do to help reduce global warming, and why it is important to resolve climate change. So to fully understand what climate change is, we really need to understand what the greenhouse effect is. So basically, the greenhouse effect is the process where the radiation from the sun gets trapped inside our planet's atmosphere. And the greenhouse effect is all done by human activity, and there's a natural greenhouse effect, which this is the natural greenhouse effect shown up here. And this is where greenhouse gases come in, like carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is really important for our planet. It is released through natural processes like breathing, but it has been released through deforestation for changing our landscape for agriculture and burning fossil fuels in a poor way. Other greenhouse gases are methane and nitrous oxide and water vapor. All these gases trap heat in our atmosphere, keeping the earth warm. And although we wouldn't be able to survive without the natural greenhouse effect, the human enhanced greenhouse effect has been furthering the causes and effects of climate change. Basically, the human enhanced greenhouse effect traps more emitted heat and doesn't let as much heat escape our atmosphere. Other natural causes of climate change is volcanic activity, changes in solar radiation, how our Earth orbits around the sun. Basically, when our Earth is closer to the sun, our climate is warmer and vice versa. And even how the Earth's axial tilt affects the climate change. The tilt in our axis doesn't change frequently, but over time when this angle increases, our summers become warmer and our winters become colder. And these causes are all very important for why climate change has been a very troubling issue, but what we humans have done in the past century have been egregious and need to be looked at. So now on to factors affecting climate change. So basically, greenhouse emission gases, like I said earlier, are gases that absorb and emit radiant energy, meaning they block heat from escaping our atmosphere. This includes carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and CFCs. And you may be wondering, what in the world are CFCs? Well, CFCs, the acronym stands for chlorofluorocarbons, and these are synthetic compounds that consist of chlorine, carbon, fluorine, and hydrogen. They are also a greenhouse gas that harms our ozone layer. After they enter the atmosphere, they slowly drift up into the second lowest layer of our atmosphere called the stratosphere, and they are broken up by ultraviolet radiation from the sun, releasing chlorine atoms, and these chlorine atoms are able to destroy ozone molecules, so this is very dangerous. Next is the melting of ice glaciers. The melting of ice glaciers is important because it also leads to more problems like sea levels rising, which then could lead on to coastal erosion. More glaciers are melting because of global warming, aka the greenhouse effect. And this is very bad because as ice glaciers melt, this actually affects the Earth's axial tilt, because ice glaciers and ice sheets are vital to our Earth's distribution of mass. So as the ice sheets melt, our Earth's axial tilt starts to slowly change, which could be vital. And according to NASA, in the 20th century alone, Greenland's ice mass has decreased a total of 7,500 gigatons. This is the weight more than 20 million Empire State Buildings. The distribution of mass consequently changes the drifting Earth axis spin. It's not working. So this is next, ocean absorption of heat. This picture is obviously fabricated, but you get the point. Our oceans absorb heat when the sunlight reaches our Earth's surface, and as you may know, water has a higher heat capacity than air. This is because of the hydrogen bonding among water molecules. And a process of conduction occurs as new temperatures of air touches our sea surface, where the transfer of heat goes from the sun to our oceans. And when rain falls, the ocean releases the stored heat energy into our atmosphere. And the oceans don't just store heat as well, it distributes to all the oceans across the world because of ocean currents. And as oceans continue to warm, they will expand and also can cause sea levels to rise as well. So this is a really big reason why more and more heat has been entering our atmosphere. So how COVID-19 is affecting climate change? Well, ever since COVID-19 hit us in March 2020, climate change has actually gotten worse. Not only is our climate changing, but potentially COVID-19 is being transmitted more abnormally than it should be. There are theories that climate change can even affect pandemics. So for example, deforestation causes a loss of habitat for many different species, and they then have to find a new home. And this could potentially lead to some contact with foreign species that they have never seen before, and this could lead to some spread of germs and pathogens. And deforestation is also a factor contributing to climate change, which needs to be addressed. I know we can't really completely control the transmission of the virus, but we can stop by cutting down trees as a starting spot for reducing climate change in our greenhouse gas emissions. And although we haven't been leaving our houses as much because of lockdowns, restrictions, etc., we still have done a poor job of reducing our energy indoors. So for my presentation, I searched NASA, United Nations, Harvard's website as well, but I really wanted to get an expert's point of view on climate change. So this man right here is David Wallace Wells, and he is a journalist who writes about our planet's climate and our future's climate. So I watched one of his TED Talks, and in this TED Talk, he acknowledges that he was wrong about climate change early on in his life. He believed it was a minor problem and it was happening slowly, so there was really no worry and no rush, nothing to worry about. And he basically said our generation is to blame for warming our planet in the last 30 years, and we, quote, chose to do so and put carbon into our atmosphere. And since we chose to do so, he suggested we can also choose to make a difference and make a change and bring change. And so what I got out of listening to this TED Talk was we hold our planet's future in our hands, and it's really up to us if we really want to take action. And I remember my dad has always told me that inaction is the worst type of action, so that's what I thought about after watching this TED Talk. So why solving climate change is important? Well, first of all, our planet Earth. So as of right now, planet Earth is the only compatible planet that is able to sustain human life. And if we keep up our use of greenhouse gases and burning fossil fuels, we won't have a planet to live on. So this is really important. Next, I put future generations. So it's really important to prevent climate change, to make a difference for our kids, grandkids, and so on. To make our planet compatible for our future generations, we really need to make an attempt to make change. So the United Nations and many other groups and organizations have attempted to bring countries together to try and stop this issue. And prevention is also another reason. So according to Yale Environment 360, every second since 1990, our oceans are accumulating heat equivalent up to 5 Hiroshima bombs exploding. This means heat will undoubtedly return back to our atmosphere. So how can we prevent this? Well, we can start by improving human adaptation. We can also try to cool our oceans as a counter towards our ocean's heat consumption. By spraying tiny salt particles, it can help cool down our oceans. And so what can we really do? Well, we can start by recycling. We could not drive to as many places. We could bike if they're in walking distance as well. And we could also reduce our water waste, which means shorter showers. I know this says take a 1-song shower. That might be a little quick, but I believe a 5-minute shower is all that you need. And so can climate change be erased in one day? No, climate change cannot be solved overnight, not even in the next century. But if we can reduce the usage of fossil fuels and greenhouse gases, we will be able to be in a better position than we are in now, and we can hopefully slow down climate change, and our future generations can make an even bigger impact on the reduction of climate change. Thank you.